Welcome, foolish mortals, to Disney Coast to Coast. I'm here to introduce your host, your Disney Coast to Coast host. Kindly raise your volume, please. Jeff has plenty of Disney chatter for everyone. There's no turning back now.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and today on the show, I am thrilled to be welcoming Muppeteer Bill Barretta to the podcast. This month, to celebrate the greatest holiday of them all, Disney Plus released the long-awaited Muppets Halloween special, Muppets Haunted Mansion. Not only does Bill perform the role of Pepe the King Prawn, along with numerous other iconic Muppets, but he's also a writer on the special, as well as an executive producer. Listen as we discuss all things Muppets Haunted Mansion, and a bit more, right after this. Subscribe to Attractions Magazine and have the magic of Disney, Universal, and more theme park fun delivered directly to your door. Each issue features 64 pages of exclusive in-depth articles, colorful photos, updates, and more. Attractions Magazine is your backstage pass to the theme parks. Plus, in each issue, you get an article from me in the DePauli on DeParks column. You won't find this article anywhere else. To check out the different subscription levels available, visit attractionsmagazine.com.
Prepare for some insight. You've tuned in to an exclusive DCTC interview.
Hello, Mr. Bill Barretta. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast. I am very excited to have you here today.
Mister, thank you very much. Thank you.
Now you're your dad all of a sudden, Mr. Barretta. Well, Bill, I gotta say, at the first D23 Expo in 2009, during a Muppets panel, they had mentioned that they were working on a Muppets Halloween special. And I believe it was going to be something like the Muppets retelling classic monster stories, as I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I saw an image of Fozzie Bear as Frankenstein's monster.
Okay.
But I could totally be making that up. Who knows? But my point is that a Muppets Halloween special has been in development for a long time. And I'm curious, when's the first time that you heard about the Muppets working on a Halloween special?
Well, I mean, if you talk to Jim Lewis and Kirk Thatcher, it's gone back much farther than that as far as them wanting to do something Halloween, whether it was a special, a movie, something. And that's probably 2009. That probably sounds right. Maybe a little before I had seen something or read something that they had written. I think there were two different ideas and even maybe two different scripts. But that was the first I had heard about it. But it was certainly nothing that was connected, although maybe for them, writing it, maybe they felt there was a connection, to the Haunted Mansion and paying some homage to that maybe. But I don't remember it being necessarily connected to this, Disney Haunted Mansion kind of approach. I think it was just they wanted to do something fun and haunted,
Yeah, like I said, I remember seeing some sort of like classic monster imagery, as the Muppets so often do. They retell classic stories.
Yeah.
And I think that was the direction that they were going, but I gotta tell you, as like a Muppet fan and a holiday special fan, like I am a diehard holiday special fan, and for years, my favorite Christmas ones have come from the Muppets, whether it was Muppet Christmas Carol or It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie I love, Christmas Toy I love, Muppet Family Christmas, and in my opinion, the greatest Muppet project of all time, Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Yeah.
Obsessed with that.
Yes.
And so, like, just knowing how well the Muppets did Christmas, I was like, Halloween's my favorite day of the year. I'm like, please, give us something. So in 2009, when I heard the Muppets are doing Halloween, I was like, sold, done, let's do it.
Yeah.
And it was super exciting.
Yeah. And, now that I'm thinking about it, there was some kind of CD-ROM game about Muppet monsters or something, if I recall. I wish I could remember the name of it, but there was some sort of Muppets monster game, I think. Are you familiar with that? Have you ever?
No, that I am not familiar with at all, but I'm also not much of a gamer at all. Do you think it was like Halloween related, or just like, because the Muppets have so many monsters? It could be.
No, I remember I actually remember Kermit looking like a Frankenstein or something. I think it was, I'm not sure if it was long after Treasure Island. Maybe it was even before 2000. I don't remember, but I have some weird, and I don't have a great memory, so this could be all just crap. But I remember something. I believe there's a monsters game or something.
I'm gonna have to research that.
Yeah, maybe. You know what? Sorry, I'm gonna do it right now. It's gonna bother me if we don't. Let me just have a look real quick. Yes, here it is. Muppet Monster Adventure PlayStation.
Oh, wow.
What does Clifford look? Clifford looks like a bat or something.
Did you say Gonzo's Dracula? I guess. So yeah, he looks like a bat. Wow.
Do you see it now?
This is kind of cool. Yes, I've never seen this before in my life.
Yeah, look, there's Robin down at the bottom.
Oh my gosh.
I have no idea.
Call him Sir Robin the Brave. Oh, man.
I've never played the game. I don't remember seeing it played, but I just had that image of Kermit in my head for some reason.
That is awesome. And yes, I'm going to share that with everybody listening. That is so, so cool. Never heard of that before, but like I said, not a gamer, so that doesn't surprise me.
Me too, yeah.
Before I move on, I did mention It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie, which I love, which you worked on, right?
Sure, yes.
That one was kind of I don't know, it felt like a return to holiday specials for the Muppets. And it was really interesting because it was on NBC and there was so much NBC synergy in it, like for comedic reasons. And now that Disney owns the Muppets, yet NBC is owned by Universal, it's kind of fun to go back and just watch that.
Oh, yeah. And I also liked It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas, too. I had some favorite, I guess because, being there doing it, I remember the moments of making it, mm-hmm. And I did love doing the letters to Santa because we shot in New York, which was fun to do, to be there. They're both, I have different memories. Like I loved working with Nathan Lane, that was kind of an unexpected thing. Stanley Tucci was supposed to play that role and his wife passed away. And so he wasn't able to do it. And Nathan Lane stepped in and, did that part. We had fun. Him and Bobo was really fun to do in that.
That's so much fun. So yeah, as I said, I just love holiday specials. And so we finally got a Muppet Halloween one. Now, did you think it was going to happen this time? Because I got to tell you, I saw the title, Muppets Haunted Mansion, on a spreadsheet that I shouldn't have seen about 6 months to a year before they announced it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that'll happen. We'll see.
Yeah.
So did you actually think it was going to happen this time around?
I thought it was heading in the right direction, and then COVID hit, and I thought, no, we're probably not going to do it. And then we started tailoring it a bit too, if we had to have some parameters, to how we might get it done. We kind of started tailoring it a bit to our challenges, and our obstacles that were kind of in the way. And it just fed it even more. A long time ago, Frank Oz said to me, write yourself into a corner. It's the best thing you could do. Or don't be afraid to, because that's when the best ideas come. That's when you fight the most for things. That's when you start to dig deeper, right? And try and figure out how do I fix this problem? How do I make it better? And that's kind of what happened with this. It just got better because we had some challenges to overcome and into production, just with the special effects that we used and the way we had to shoot it. Those are all challenges that we had. And I mean, you certainly don't see it, I hope, on screen. I don't think people are feeling it, which they're not supposed to, but what they're getting is what came out of those challenges, and I think it's pretty fun.
TV and film in general, it's kind of been interesting to see that because there are some shows that really lean into COVID as part of a storyline and then others that completely ignore it. And what I find interesting is the ones that completely ignore it, I never question why aren't they wearing masks or whatever.
Right.
And it just, it's interesting how you can go both ways and it works. And like you've said, production has just had to start getting creative, and I love that it finally happened even through COVID.
Me too.
It's wonderful.
Me too. Yeah. Thank goodness for the Muppet Studios. I mean, they really just kept it moving. They didn't give up. So yeah, I have to give them a lot of credit. Lee Slaughter and Michael Steinbach and David Lightbody. They just all kept moving forward.
Did more of it end up getting shot on green screen or blue screen or anything because of COVID, or was that kind of
not so much because of COVID, but just the nature of trying to get it within a certain budget, right, and a certain amount of days, right? So we started thinking, well, how can we do this? And we used a LED virtual wall, to help shoot some of it, and green screen and blue screen, and so yes, that was built into it too, because we knew we had to meet certain numbers and days. So
now I love that this is an actual Halloween special because, obviously it was being released in October because of the spooky nature of Haunted Mansion, but I was quite delighted that right from the start, it's like, hey, happy Halloween. We're throwing a Halloween party.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just such a fun choice. Just going back to, like I said, the Muppets do the holiday specials so well.
Yeah. And I think, at first it didn't start off with the party, and, some of the other guys that, so there were basically Kirk Thatcher, myself, Kelly Younger, Jim Lewis. We wrote the thing together, and I can't remember who said it, but it was, people were a little concerned that if Gonzo and Pepe go to this mansion and the other Muppets are playing the characters at the mansion, how will people know that it's just not them playing at the mansion? And so the party came out of that discussion, that yes, we need that to really open. And that made it more fun and made it, like you said, more Halloween night, and just added to that feeling, which was, I thought, really good. And then when you get to the mansion, you can buy into, they're imagining that these characters, are these iconic Haunted Mansion characters, are the Muppets portraying them, because we wanted it to be, these sympathetic vibrations of the mansion. When you step in, it's your perspective of life, and it's your life experiences that you're projecting onto everything in the mansion.
Now, a lot of folks know you as a Muppet performer, most notably probably Pepe the King Prawn in this special, but you were also an executive producer and writer on this one. So with that in mind, I'm curious, were you truly like a diehard Haunted Mansion fan, or did this require some research on your end? And you can be honest. I know this is a Disney podcast, and a lot of creative people like to say, of course I love the Disney parks, but like, were you like really a diehard Disney parks fan and just loved the mansion?
No. Okay. And I'll be honest with you, I promise. No, I'm not a big parks fan, but I love the parks. I grew up back east, and so as a kid, I only went once to Disneyland. It was magical, and I'll never forget going there. But no, people like Kirk Thatcher and WDI, the Walt Disney Imagineering people, got involved and worked with us and showed us so many amazing inside things that we never knew, and the folklore and all of the, everything, all the backstory of the characters in the mansion. And we were just fed amazing information as we started writing. Once we knew what our story was, the kind of, who is the bride? Well, her name is Constance Hatchaway, and her picture is in the stretch room. So if you're going to show that photo in the stretch room, well, we would love it if you would match that photo. So we thought, what, we have Taraji. We don't want to kind of give away, that it's the bride, so we didn't see the bride in there. Right. We avoided actually seeing that in the stretch room. We just went with the other three. So there were things like that we wanted to pay homage to, and then also follow the guide of Disneyland and the mansions, what they have. Yeah.
That's fascinating, because I honestly was thinking as I was watching, I was like, why are we only seeing 3 of the 4 stretching portraits? As a Disney nerd, like right? That's where my head goes, but that's really interesting. I didn't even pick up on that. Yeah. And, as you said, this special is just full of Haunted Mansion references from moment to moment. I honestly don't think a minute passes without some sort of direct reference to the ride.
Yeah.
And was that something that the team of writers wanted, or was that more of kind of like a Disney mandate?
No, it wasn't mandated. I think we just we wanted to pay homage to all of the mansions. One of the things that they asked us to do was not to make it based on one mansion, right? So it's not based on the Disneyland mansion, or it's not based on the Disney World mansion, or so we took all different elements in a sense and created our own. So it was almost like this was in our minds, our little minds, this was the mansion that all those were created from or modeled after, right? Even though it's the complete opposite, and but because we only had 50 minutes to tell this story, where we have it's a special length for a special. We wanted it to feel like a ride. I didn't want us to sit there too long. I wanted to keep moving, so you felt like, in a way, you're on the ride. So scenes and songs weren't belabored, and we didn't spend a lot of time sitting. We keep moving, and that's what I really pushed for us to make sure that just keep having fun. Let's make sure we make sure we stay on story, and we stay on our story arc and our character arcs, but let's just keep moving. We don't have a lot of time, and it just will feel like fun, and that we're on the ride.
Was there a lot of debate about like what direction the story would go? Because obviously when you're given the Haunted Mansion as this kind of starting point, you could go in a bunch of different directions. So was there a bunch that was just thrown away, I would assume?
There weren't too many. It's funny because I'm trying to remember the order of events, but when the Muppet Studios asked us to kind of think about what this story might be, one of the things I had thrown out, and I even think Kelly may have focused on this too, and I think we were pleasantly surprised that we had a similar take on it, was that we both thought it could be a Gonzo-driven story. And my reason, I can't remember exactly what Kelly's reasons were, but mine came from when we did the live shows at the Hollywood Bowl in the O2. There was a great segment in that where Gonzo does his magical delusions, his world of magical delusion. And I just thought there might be something fun with Gonzo, exploring more with Gonzo with magic, and then adding that magic to a haunted mansion, that there could be a connection there somehow. And that's when we started talking about, maybe he has this mentor that he followed for many years, and that mentor died in the mansion or went missing, 100 years ago. And so it happened on Halloween. Hey, that's a good idea. It's the 100th anniversary. Hey, that's even better. Let's get, So it grew out of the magic of Gonzo's, what Gonzo was into, what turns him on, and why he wouldn't go to a Muppet Halloween. This was a big event for him, an important event for him.
That's interesting that you say that about, how you decided on Gonzo to really kind of drive the story here, because there was part of me, in fact, I had a question later on for you, but I'll just ask it now, where I was wondering if Gonzo has kind of been honored in this way. I feel like more recently, there's a lot of Gonzo-driven stuff, even more so than Kermit sometimes. And I was wondering if it's because Dave Goelz is, I believe, the only Jim Henson Muppeteer still around. And I was curious if there was any sort of kind of honoring him in that way, decision-making.
No, I don't like him very much. So it wasn't that. He's really annoying. So it's not that. No, not really. I can't say that it was. It just felt, I was just thinking about the character and what would be fun. And you know what? Just to be just a little more honest, even what kind of played into it was Dave and I are both West Coast performers. We live out here. And when we came into COVID, it was, maybe we might be the only ones who make it to the set. We may not be able to get the other guys to fly out here. And what would that be? Not that would be, a good thing. We were trying obviously to avoid that, but also the guys on the East Coast were doing Sesame. So we had to make sure that we could get them on their availability. So it was a little tricky about who was going to be available when. And we thought, there's Gonzo. We know we have Dave. Let's throw Pepe. We need somebody, pair him up with somebody. And Dave and I have a lot of fun together. We've always have fun with Pepe and Gonzo. And so we just thought, well, that might be a fun pairing. Pepe thinks he's going to some Hollywood mansion party, and Gonzo's bringing him along for the ride.
It is interesting how Gonzo it seems is very often paired with somebody. At first it was with a chicken, and then it became Rizzo the rat very much for a long time. Yep. And then, and now Pepe seems to be his sidekick.
Who knows where it'll go? But yes, you're absolutely right. Rizzo and Gonzo are amazing. That's just an amazing pair. And I loved when Pepe and Rizzo were together. I had so much fun, working with Steve, just amazing. And we just had so much fun. And so this was fun to do with Dave, to get to play around and be stupid. Yeah.
I love that. So there are some references that I'll never be able to not think about whenever I'm riding the attraction now.
Yeah.
One of them is the classic scream soundbite in the stretching room. At the end of the stretching room, there's that classic scream. And now we know that it's a Muppet goat.
That's right. You didn't know that? Never know?
I had no idea, but I will never be able. I'll probably laugh every time I hear that now in the stretching room.
It had to be. It had to be the goat. And, the goat was in our Muppets Now series on Disney Plus. So that's where we started with the screaming goat. We just thought it'd be funny to bring her back. Julianne's so funny, So Julianne Boucher, she performed the goat. So that
funny.
was fun for us.
And then another one that I love is all of Madame Leota's floating instruments that we see in the ride.
Oh.
We now know that it's Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem playing those things.
Isn't that amazing? Nobody knew. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite ride references that you worked into the special?
Ride references. Well, I have a mansion reference that's my favorite. In our version, the address of our mansion is Jim Henson's birthday. 9/24.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Were you, speaking of Jim Henson's birthday, I think this was on his birthday, were you at the thing at the Jim Henson Company where Dave Goelz was being honored? And I think it was on Jim's birthday.
I was there. Was it on his birthday? It could have been.
Yeah, I was there as well. And I remember that was I was a guest of John Tartaglia's.
Oh, right.
And I think he was hosting the night, if I'm remembering correctly.
He did. Well, yeah. And Brian and I did Bobby and Samson, the pig and the bull character. Do you remember
Yes,
that?
That's right. I remember that. And there was even an Emmett Otter performance there, which made me very, very happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was on Jim's birthday. But that's so cool. The address is Jim's birthday. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love some of the little details, like the design of the wallpaper is so iconic in the Haunted Mansion and what the Muppets did with it. I mean, they need to start selling sheets of that stuff as wallpaper and or wrapping paper.
I know.
It's great.
It's brilliant. Darcy she did so many great things, so many great Easter eggs. And that wallpaper's, it's amazing how close it is to the original. If you had no idea and you were not doing a Muppet special or nothing, and you saw, you'd catch it. But at first it's kind of, that's just the wallpaper. But then you look and it's got just great ideas everywhere. There's so many.
Yeah. And not only are there tributes to the Haunted Mansion in the special, but also it caught some really cool Muppet Show tributes, most specifically in the ballroom scene.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume this was on purpose, like the arches and the characters in the arches, very reminiscent of the original Muppet Show.
Yep.
Right?
Yes, for sure. And the way Kirk kind of played out the song to grow, with the arches and building the ending of the song, it's very Muppet Show. At the dance, at the start of the ballroom when there's just those
loved that
dancing moments.
I kept hearing da 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 dun, 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 dun. I was like, how epic is this? It was a Muppet nerd and Disney nerd's dream come true. Honestly, it was so cool.
Do you know? Have you seen? Or is anyone? I don't know. Like online, what people are seeing or photos or anything like that. But have you seen in the front gate? Has Kermit eyes built into the
Kermit
iron.
eyes.
Yeah, you've seen that.
Yeah, where I saw that actually, it wasn't in the special. I noticed it. There's a display in downtown Disney, down at the Disneyland Resort.
Oh, right.
And they have a couple of gates there. And I noticed, in fact, I tweeted about them because I'm like, I love this detail of Kermit's eyes in the gates.
Oh, good.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, in this special, we see Fozzie Bear as the Hatbox Ghost, we see Miss Piggy as Madame Leota, and many other Muppets taking on iconic Haunted Mansion roles. Of course, the Muppets have retold many classic tales, whether it's Treasure Island, A Christmas Carol, The Wizard of Oz, and many more. I'm curious, how are those role assignments decided? Do they seem to fall pretty naturally into place, or is it ever a long discussion as to which Muppet will be cast in an iconic role?
It's not really that regimented as far as, who's going to play what. I think it just unfolded itself as we started talking about it and thinking about one of the first things that was fun about doing it in the Haunted Mansion was we thought of Statler and Waldorf in the Doom Buggy floating by in the air as their kind of floating balcony. That just felt right. Sticking Piggy's head in a bowl just felt right to frustrate her, The worst thing she could possibly want to be in a special is the head in the bowl, what else? Fozzie. Well, Fozzie just made sense because we thought he tells the joke and then his head goes to the box for the punchline. So it was just out of those kinds of discussions and thoughts, we knew that we wanted to do some sort of show in the ballroom, and we figured make it feel like a Muppet show. Kermit would be some sort of host, a fun way of doing that. So they just kind of grew as we just talked about. We talked about the mansion and they came out of that, really.
Has there ever been a circumstance that you can recall where like a character at one point was going to be performed by a Muppet, and then they're like, you know what, maybe this is a human role? Like, for instance, not this specifically, but the Will Arnett role. Yeah. Has there ever been in anything, not just Haunted Mansion, that it was like, no, this feels like human, or vice versa? This is going to be a human, but no, maybe a Muppet would work better.
That's a good question. Like I said, I don't have the greatest memory, but I can tell you in this case, we always felt that the human host would be good. Same with the bride. I think even the caretaker we thought would be a human. Gee, that's hard. I can't kind of give you an example off the top of my head.
How about the singing busts? Were the singing busts ever considered to be puppets, or were those always going to be kind of cameos?
Wow, we thought those would be fun cameos. We always thought those would be fun to do as, straight out cameos. So those were always supposed to be that. So this isn't really the human versus puppet thing, but for example, we wrote a scene for Bunsen and Beaker and Mulch and Dr. Van Neuter in the mansion where they were going to be examining Gonzo's brain. So we had a scene that we had written for them, but because of time, we had to find cuts. And so we pulled that scene out and we tried to figure out, well, where could we service these characters? And that's what ended up having Bunsen and Beaker as the busts that follow Gonzo walking, and they talk about budget, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we were hoping for a bigger part or something like that. Budget cuts.
Yeah. Boy, it's just exciting. Beaker says, why? Kind of like, why? Bunsen says, budget.
So just to talk executive business stuff for a second, I guess, when it comes to you've mentioned the length of the special a couple times. Yeah. And I know like someplace like Disney Plus, it's not as important as on like network TV where you really have an exact amount of minutes. So when you do kind of get that mandate of, hey, it needs to be around 50 minutes long, is that mostly a budget thing? Or is it like, no, we've learned that people's attention spans suck, so make it shorter? Like, where does that come from, since it's really not a huge issue on Disney Plus?
Yeah, your second part there is what it's all about. It's testing and data based on how long people will watch certain things. It's based on binge watching and how long are attention spans holding up for a special versus a movie that they know they're in for a film, right? It actually is based on some of that data, and you have some leeway to play with, kind of like, I'll just make it up, but between 45 minutes and 58 minutes or 57 minutes, right? That's kind of where you try and hit. So yeah, it actually is kind of based on that. Yeah.
That's a little depressing.
It's weird. I know it's strange, right? But you know what? That's kind of our world. I mean, everything is based on people's attention spans, whether you're looking at Facebook or you're on your phone or you're watching TV or you're streaming or binge watching. I mean, we're not going to do a 2-hour talk here, right? I mean, there's a reason you kind of want people to come and watch it and hang in, and hopefully they'll stay, but, and I'm the first one to say whatever it needs to be, that's what it should be. Mm-hmm. But it just doesn't work. Our world doesn't work that way anymore,
Yeah. Well, so much of what we see of the Muppets on screen feels improvised, and I'm always curious whether or not something was scripted versus improvised in specific moments. And I'm curious in this special, was Kermit performing his classic "yay" as a boo decided on set, or was that scripted? Because that made me laugh out loud.
Good. That was scripted.
That was a great moment. I was like, I mean, whenever that was decided, I just imagine someone be like, yes, 100%. That's hilarious. Go with it.
Yeah, definitely. That was scripted. And actually, when we did one of the cuts, there was a version where there was kind of the room characters were added as audio as them booing with him. And I said, no, wait. That's Kermit's yay. That's not everybody's boo, right? That's just him. And so it almost kind of would have missed. I'm glad you appreciate that moment, because that is exactly what it is. It's Kermit doing his yay in the mansion version.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Now, every good Halloween special needs something scary in it, even if it's for a younger audience. And I've got to say that aging Gonzo is one of the most nightmare-inducing images we've ever gotten from the Muppets. Who came up with that design? And I hope that he's been put away in a box forever.
Well, the amazing Kirk Thatcher came up with the design for Gonzo as he grew old. And I can tell you, when we shot it, there was a hush in the room. People went quiet. And I just heard this, actually. My brother and I were doing our show, the Barretta Brothers, and we had some people on, and Kelly Younger talked about, he was next to Lee Slaughter, head of the Muppet Studios, and she got chills in her arm. He got chill. People just kind of like, oh my God. And I think I remember hearing, you can hear me because I was assisting with Dave. I was with him because I do the coordinating on set and all that stuff. So I was there. I happened to be with him. And after he did that screaming, Kermit, it went quiet. And I said, here's my one curse word. I said, holy because it got us all. And again, going back, just saying, like in the edit, the edit is so important to telling stories and creating those feelings. Music and editing, huge, right? Huge part of all of this. And we had a version where I think people were a little afraid to let us feel that moment. And I kept pushing. I said, you remember what that was like. We have to get back to that. We need people to feel that. And I think they did it. They made it work really well, because it does, right? It gets you.
I mean, we don't see the Muppets age, right? We only see them as babies, or the age we typically see them.
Yeah.
So it was definitely creepy. What did Dave Goelz think the first time he saw that puppet?
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't with him when he first saw it, but I know.
Oh, it wasn't on set that he maybe was revealed to him or anything?
No. Usually, Jane Gutnick, who supervises the workshop and runs the workshop so beautifully, she'll have conversations and meetings with us based on the different characters and the things that, are new or challenging in some way. So I don't know his first reaction. I think he loved the design of it. But he certainly knew what to do with it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of scary things in the special, I love that there was a reference to The Shining with the twins in the hallway.
Thank you. I'll take credit for that. Thank you. I'll take that one.
That was shocking. I was like, yes. Yeah. Now we just need a bloody elevator.
Right. I
know. Disney wouldn't take that though, I guess. But
my wife was actually really scared at the Stamos moment. The jump scare really got her. She didn't expect it at all.
So funny.
Yeah.
Did you? Now you saw it on the big screen somewhere, I assume at a premiere or something, right?
We had a premiere at a drive. We did a drive-in.
The drive-in
premiere,
thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it there. But I mean, I saw all the cuts leading up to it, every bit,
Yeah. No, of course, every Muppet special is full of music, and I heard that there was a song written for this one called Be Our Ghost, which of course is a spoof on the title Be Our Guest from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Where was the song supposed to be performed in the special, and why exactly was it cut? Was it just a time thing?
Be Our Ghost was supposed to be in the ballroom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was our kind of big middle number. We had, because of time, I suggested that we do 2 shorter songs and we make our ballroom the kind of big production number. And it was Be Our Ghost. Kelly Younger wrote some amazing lyrics, and we still ended up using a lot of those. You know, we all tailored them eventually together, but he really wrote that one out, and we just couldn't get the rights to the music. We thought we were going to be able to do that. It just didn't work out to be able to use the actual
it was
track.
actually going to have that melody?
Yeah, we were going to do Be Our Guest
Oh.
with Be Our Ghost. But again, it worked out, I think, much better because of our obstacle. And I think the lyrics and then the melody and the tune that Ed Mitchell and Steve Morrell came up with, this big band number, I think was just perfect for it. I loved it.
That is slightly ironic, though. A Disney song and you couldn't get approval.
Yeah, well.
Unbelievable. Even the parody laws weren't on your side, I guess.
No, it
That's
happens all the
funny.
time. You know, it's you just never know. Yeah.
It's show business, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, was any of this special whatsoever shot at one of the rides, or was this all soundstage stuff?
Yeah, no, not at the ride at all. All of it was
Okay.
either on our AR wall or our virtual wall. We only had 3 practical sets, 3 real sets. Can you guess what they were?
I think stretching room?
Nope.
No? Was it the
Pretty good though,
the
right?
party.
Pretty
The
good.
party, right?
Pretty good though, right?
Yes.
The stretch room.
The stretching room, I thought, was the portion of it was real.
Yeah.
I thought the party, I would assume,
Yes,
right?
the party.
Okay. Gosh, let me think for a second. John Stamos stuff, right?
Oh, you know what? I should say 4. Yes, I should say 4. So you got 2. Good.
Okay. I mean, I don't think you count the limousine as a set.
Well, we do. Yes, for sure.
Okay, so the limousine.
Yep.
And then, so there's one more. Was
Yeah.
some of the attic stuff real?
All the attic. Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
So those 4. So the attic, the limo, the John Stamos. I always forget. That's absolutely right. That was a practical set, and then the party. Yeah.
One thing I love about Pepe are his Pepe-isms. For example, one that got me to laugh out loud was when he was trying to say hors d'oeuvres and he comes out as horsey d'oeuvres. First of all, I want to know, I want Pepe to narrate my GPS, although he'd probably get me lost.
Yeah.
But also, where does this phraseology come from? Is it something that sort of rolls off the tongue for you, or is it like very strategically written?
Oh, it's my wife's aunt. I mean, that's who he's based on.
Those Pepe-isms are?
Oh yeah. I mean,
That's hilarious.
I mean, I the new things come out, but I'm the character comes from her. So I'm always just trying to stay in that mode. And it just, sometimes there's funnier ways of saying, so you do work it a little more. Sometimes they happen. Usually if we're writing, we'll do character voices as we're writing. And so I don't know, we were just writing and I said, horsey, jeez. Sorry. But my favorite part was the ASPCA instead of, as soon as possible, he says ASPCA. But it depends. I mean, yeah, some of it's written, but a lot of it's just, I usually ask, if I'm not writing it, I usually ask if they'll just write it out regular, just as if anybody were to kind of say the lines, I mean, the guys know his cadence and but I often try and ask not to make it too Pepe-ish on the page so that I can just let it happen.
That's really interesting because I don't know if you know the voice actor Bob Bergen,
Sure.
who does Porky Pig,
Of course.
but he says the same thing. He's like, just write Porky as if it's just normal talk. He goes, I'll add in the stutters where they should be. And he goes, and if they do write them in, it really screws me up.
Yeah.
I've heard him say that.
That's true.
And so that's really interesting.
Yeah, me too. Same with the
I like
Swedish
that.
Chef. I'd rather they say what they want him to say, and then I kind of transcribe it with his ridiculousness.
Interesting. Now, feel free to say no to this. Can I talk to Pepe for a minute?
Yes. See, what you want?
Okay, Pepe, welcome to Disney Coast to Coast.
Hola.
Thanks for coming on.
Hola, Jeffrey. How are you, my friend?
I'm very good,
Okay.
thank you.
You're
I got
Italian?
a question for you. I am 100% Italian.
Where is your family from, okay?
Italy somewhere.
You don't know the
I grew up in
town?
I don't. I grew up in Massachusetts.
It's a shame
I'm
on
not-
you, okay?
I know. I
Where's
don't
your
know my
mother?
heritage. I haven't.
Call your mother right now.
She's sleeping.
Wake her up.
No.
I want to know.
Pepe,
What?
yes, please go ahead.
I want to know where you're from. You need to learn, okay? After we're
let's say
done, when
Sicily.
we're finished, you're going to call your mama, and I want you to ask or your papa. I want you to please ask, por favor. Pepe wants to know where we're from.
I will find out for you,
Okay.
and I will shoot you an email, I promise.
Okay.
But Pepe, you got to work with a ton of guest stars
Sí.
in Muppets Haunted Mansion.
See?
Do you have any favorite memories with any of them?
No.
None of
I
them.
kid. My favorite, I love to dance with Taraji, okay? Will Arnett is funny. Who else? Darren Chris, he was a pleasure to work with, very professional man, very excited to meet me. Everyone, they want to meet me, you should ask them what it was like to meet me, I think.
Fair enough. Now, Pepe, you were introduced to the Muppet gang way back on the TV show Muppets Tonight,
Sí.
which I grew up with.
Sí.
Now, I know I'm asking you to remember a while back,
Okay.
but selfishly, I need to ask you if you have any memories of working with Rick Moranis on Muppets Tonight, as he is one of my favorite performers of all time.
Oh my goodness. I don't think I have a specific story, but the man who make the show, the showrunner, executive producer, Dick Plasucci, he is friends with Moranis because they work on SCTV together, okay? And it was a lot of just hanging out, enjoying the company, watching him work was incredible. Watching him play was fun. He was just a nice man. He's just a nice man. You can just say, this is a nice man, okay?
I love that. And
Yeah.
that's what I hear about him, and that makes me happy. I've
Yeah.
never met him, but one of these days I will talk to him.
He's real. He's real.
Yeah.
No faking.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm.
And Pepe, before I bring Bill back,
Yeah.
I got to know, you're quite the romantic, and you nearly get married in Muppets Haunted Mansion.
Sí.
It sort of feels like you fall in love quite easily, as we've seen through the years. I've got to ask, have you ever truly been in love, Pepe?
I have a little problem with commitment, okay? They say, what is it? Love them and leave them. But I stay friends. We stay friends. And Whoopi and I were engaged. Whoopi Goldberg, we were engaged for a while. And then she, I don't know, got mad at me. Lara Spencer, we were dating for a while. And then she went and got married. I don't know. I just like to have fun. And then with the ladies, I love them. And they love me. And we're friends. We're all friends.
Excellent answer. Well, Pepe, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Can we bring Bill back to the show?
I don't know. He's not here, but let me see. Give me a moment. I'll find him. Bill, por favor, with Jeffrey. Yes, sir. Hello.
So I want to rewind the clock for a moment and talk about another Muppets project that was semi-recently added to Disney Plus, and that's your first big Muppets gig. That's the sitcom Dinosaurs. Have you gone back and relived the memories at all watching it on Disney Plus?
I have, and I haven't watched them all again, but I went back and looked at some of the first season. I couldn't watch too many because that's not my favorite season for me. It's hard for me to watch. I don't like what I was doing back then. I was so new to being in a suit and understanding how to really do it well. Watching Michel Sisti and Leif Tilden, those guys who had done Ninja Turtles, and they really had a great sense of how to make the character feel like it was all one. And in the first season, my head and my body felt like two separate things. And I mentioned this before, but again, a Frank Oz thing. He came up to me, he was visiting one time, and he said, you might want to just occasionally touch the jaw with your hand or just give a little scratch. People touch their chin, a little scratch, just a little thing. Just connect the head to the body a little more. And and I started to feel more like a complete character. Once I started to do that, it started to make more sense to me how to simplify it, how to not try and be so big, not try to talk as much with my hands, even though he was a very gestury kind of character. So but as it went on, I just got lost. I watched, a few from each season, and boy, it's just so well written, and it's just really beautiful. It's really well done, and I think of, it's so funny when I'm listening to it while watching it, I don't always hear the voices of the actors who ultimately did the voices. I kind of still hear the voices that were in my head when we shot it. I hear Alan Troutman as Fran, and I hear Mac Wilson or Dave Goles as Earl. I hear Steve Whitmire as Robbie. I hear Bruce Lanoil as Charlene. Those are the sounds that I hear. And so when I watch it, I'm a bit removed, but I'm remembering, there's times when I remember, oh yeah, I remember falling over and doing that, or I remember that took forever, or I fainted at that point or something,
Yeah, that's interesting because people may not know who are listening. Earl Sinclair is the character that you were in the body of,
Yeah.
But then there was a puppeteer using a Waldo, I think they call it, right? The Waldo mitt.
Yeah, and the joystick that has all the other facial features. So that's just for the mouth, the Waldo.
And that's like the head and the mouth and stuff. And so that's the voice you're hearing inside the suit. And then later in post-production, they would add in other actors' voices, which is very much not typically the case with the Muppets.
That's
it's
true.
Usually the person on your hand is the voice that you're hearing. The only thing I can really, in a major way, think of that's not that is, interestingly, my obsession, Emmett Otter's Jugman's Christmas, where Ma Otter is Frank Oz originally.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and
yes.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the voices of the characters who they ultimately have do them are great. They're all really, right? They're all really, they're memorable and they work. They really fit the characters. But I remember it took us a little while to get in sync with Stuart because we were kind of doing one thing on stage and he would come on and he would do his thing. And we found the balance because we would go, hey, you know what? He's made a better choice there. We should have probably done that. And so we started, I think, to realize we started to feed each other a little more, and Earl became more one, even though it was three people doing it. Ultimately, we somehow, I think, figured it out, and he's I think he's a great character. He's obviously Jackie Gleason from The Honeymooners, but he's our version of that, and I think it's an original version of that.
Yeah. What's the actor's name who voiced Earl on the series?
Stuart Pankin.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just because I'm a nerd, let's do some trivia. Do you know when he worked with Rick Moranis? He was in
was it Honey I Blew Up the Kids or something?
Honey We Shrunk Ourselves.
He plays Honey We Shrunk Ourselves. Oh, right.
Yeah.
How about that?
Sorry.
That's okay.
I can't stop talking about Rick Moranis.
Yeah.
It just comes out.
He's amazing.
His career is amazing. This is a whole other topic. I could go on forever, but his career blows my mind. The fact that he was an above the title actor is mind blowing to me. Like just his physical type is not typically that, but whatever. Back to you. You are currently a Muppet captain with Muppet Studios. What exactly does that mean?
I'm the general. Actually, I prefer general.
Muppet general.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. It is it's not a great way to describe it. I don't like the captain thing, but it's kind of a liaison between all departments, right? So in a way, I'm kind of the central hub that kind of helps from the Muppets perspective how we need to kind of achieve things, right? So working with production designer, talking about the height of the sets, where the puppeteers are going to fit in, looking at the blueprint of the set and saying, okay, we need to raise the floors to this certain height. And in this scene, and as we get into production, it's kind of like, well, now we need humans here, but we need a little trench for our characters. I've got to figure out how to make that trench so that both can live together in the same shot, the puppet and the human. How can they walk? How can they hang out together? How can they achieve the action that's created in the script? Where do the monitors go? Does everybody have enough? So I coordinate with the video department to make sure we have enough monitors, which ones are being fed to which camera. how many cameras are we using? I work with the camera department. Are they on PEDs? How high are the cameras off of the ground? Or are we shooting low? I work with the director because often we have directors who never work with the Muppets. So I try and give them a kind of quick learning curve as to how we need to be shooting. What are we seeing? What can't we see? What are the parameters that we're forced to live in because they're half body puppets? Working with the workshop. Right. So the liaison between the workshop and the set, making sure that the characters in the workshop are going to be, I list what characters are in which scenes and what we're going to need. And then I coordinate who the puppeteers are that are going to be working, who's assisting who works together, lighting. I work with them sometimes. It's all the production office working with the producers. It's kind of this central liaison hub that reaches out to everybody.
That reminds me of a quote that I'm going to misquote here, but Walt Disney told a story of a kid asking him, "Oh, do you draw Mickey Mouse?" He's like, "Well, no." And he's like, "Well, do you do the voice?" "Well, not anymore." And he goes, "Well, what do you do, Mr. Disney?" And he goes, "Well, I think of myself as a bee, and I fly from one department to the next, and I pollinate along the way." And like I said, I'm butchering the quote.
That's interesting.
It kind of sounds like what this Muppet captain role is.
It's kind of become, that's a good way to put it. It's kind of become that over the years. It grew out of something I learned from Kevin Clash how to prepare a set and do the looking at the logistical side of it, getting my head around the logistics of how do we achieve things. I learned from Brian Henson, the vision, what you see, where you see, what the cameras, what kind of lenses, what's the best in this situation. That's, so I'm kind of a sponge. I spent 30 years as a sponge soaking it all up. And I would say the last 15, I've probably been that bee, Yeah.
Cool. Now, you've taken over a lot of Jim Henson's roles from Swedish Chef to Dr. Teeth, Mana, Rolf, and more. It makes me wonder, did you audition for Jim Henson's most iconic role of Kermit the Frog when Steve Whitmire stopped performing the role?
No, I just knew I would. It wasn't in my wheelhouse. I didn't feel like that was my persona necessarily. Mm-hmm. I feel more comfortable with, I think, Rolf and the chef and Dr. Teeth, because the music with Dr. Teeth. Rolf is also musical, so I feel comfortable with that. And the chef is just so weird. I love that. I love being able to just not have a character who speaks real words. That's interesting. And I guess I'm close. I don't think I'm a very good voice match person, but I feel like there are certain people who can capture the essence of a character, maybe more so than others. And though maybe the voice isn't exactly what people are hoping, it will be, hopefully the essence and the visual and the behavior of the character makes them feel like it still works,
It's interesting that you say that because I get into this argument with people a lot of the times when it comes to voice matching, because I am very much I like continuity.
Yeah.
And I'm always so forgiving when it comes to any, like the Muppets or any puppet characters, because when it comes to like Mickey Mouse, I'm like, no. There are thousands of voice actors out there who can do an exact match of Mickey Mouse. So it better sound exactly like Mickey Mouse. Whereas when it comes to a Muppet, I'm like, you don't understand. Like, the voice is, I don't know, you'd know better than me, 10% of the job.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's the puppeteering, it's the acting through your hand that is the majority of the job. So that's really what you need to be casting, more so than the voice, in my opinion. And it's like the one place where the continuity of voice, I completely forgive, as long as, like you said, the essence is there.
Yeah, I think if you're creating the character, for me at least, the voice is 10%. If it's a character, like I don't go into it thinking, what voice am I going to do? Right. I go into it thinking, what character is this? Who is he? Who is she? Where are they from? What color? What's their favorite color? What kind of diet do they have? Do they wear sneakers or hard shoes? What kind of car do they like? Do they live in a house or they live in a box? So do they brush their teeth? What, mint, or do they like that other flavor? Straw, so very specific things I think about character first. And then hopefully there's so many different scenarios, but here's one scenario, which is I think about the character as myself, and I'm doing this character. I'm working out this character. And then I work with a designer, right? A great artist, somebody who's been working with Muppets for a long time. We talk about that. And that becomes some sort of creature, whatever that becomes, that design starts to come out. And then when the puppet is built, that starts to kind of create new characteristics, new sounds. Does he have teeth like this? So is he going to have a little bit of this? Maybe he's not. Maybe it's not part of him. But you start to try things based on what the design starts to feed you. So for me, the voice comes kind of towards the end, in a sense. I mean, I'm doing it as myself as a character, but the ultimate thing I think comes once you've got all the pieces of the puzzle together. And so when you're doing somebody else's character, people expect you to get the voice right because it's a very, an audio driven thing, right? People are drawn by the sound. And a lot of people don't even watch television anymore. They just listen to it. So I think people are expecting it to sound what they're familiar with. And in the case of Kermit, you had Jim, which is my generation, knows Jim's voice like, in an instant. I certainly can tell the difference between Jim and Steve. And for me, when Steve first started doing it, yes, it's very close to Jim, but it soon became Steve's Kermit. And so I accepted that as that. And that's it's the essence. He also had the essence of Kermit like Jim. And now with Matt doing it, it's become people are waiting. They want to hear Steve's because they've known Steve's for 20 years. Right. So it's not so much the voice, although you want to get close and pay homage to that so that people feel comfortable and they can relate still. But I think the performer has to at some point say, I can only do so much to get close to this. And now I've got to make it a part of me. Otherwise, I can't be true to the character moving ahead. He can't grow. He can't change. She can't grow. She can't change. It has to somewhere become a part of you too. And I think, unfortunately, boy, if people would just stop dying, we'd all be fine.
Well, I mean, that's hilarious to say, but at the same time, how amazing that these characters never will die.
Yeah.
What an amazing legacy. And this is a whole other thing we can go on. But just when you think of puppets and cartoon characters, we're borrowing them, or the performer is borrowing them. Yeah. Even Jim was borrowing Kermit,
of course. Yes.
It's kind of amazing when you really think about it, but it's crazy.
Yeah, we're all take things from all kinds of places, things that we grew up with or we're drawn to, and we use those. That's what actors do. They steal a lot, and then they make it their own, and that's just the way it's always been. It's just the way it kind of goes.
Yeah. As anyone listening probably knows, the Muppets are now outright owned by the Walt Disney Company and no longer the Jim Henson Company. And I know that Jim's son, Brian Henson, is a huge part of how you got involved with the Muppets in the first place, and that you worked on one of his more recent movies, Happy Time Murders, with him. But aside from a personal relationship you have with Brian, is there any communication between the Walt Disney Company and the Jim Henson Company, like when working on specials, or is it very separate now?
No, I think they talk. I mean, I'm not involved in those conversations. Those are usually done through the Muppet Studios, Lee Slaughter, and because I don't work for Muppet Studios, although I do when I'm hired to participate in a
contract.
Yeah, and consult or whatever. But yeah, they share, I'm sure they talk about all kinds of things. They certainly have over the years. And yeah, I would imagine. Sure.
And final question. My friend Tony Gardner told me to ask you about being in a gorilla suit.
Oh my gosh, Tony Gardner. Where's he hiding?
He is, he just wrapped up the new Chucky series.
Oh, he did?
And he's getting ready, I think, for Hocus Pocus 2 at the moment.
So he's not hiding.
He's not hiding at all.
Awesome.
No, he is busy.
Wow.
He's very busy. But
yes.
He said, ask Bill about being in a gorilla suit.
Yeah, Born to be Wild. I thought that was something I really wanted to do. And I loved it when I did it, but it was hard. My favorite thing was I got to go to the LA Zoo. What year was this? Gosh, I can't even remember.
Is that the 90s?
Must be.
Yeah.
Yep. And I went to the LA. I used to hang out at the LA Zoo all the time, and I spent time, with the gorillas, watching them, studying them. And they built this beautiful silverback gorilla, and I got to play the silverback gorilla in this movie, Born to Be Wild, and did a scene in the jungle. And then I also played the silverback that was being used in a circus, and Peter Boyle was the circus owner, I think. And I actually got to die, so I get to play I had a death scene as the gorilla. But I remember one thing was we were in Hawaii, and we had to run up this hill, and it was so humid, and we had these arm extensions, right? So I had extra. The hands were extended off of mine, so I held the inside. But we had to run up this hill at the end of the movie. I think it's the end. And I think I did it 3 times, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I was just going to pass out. It was too hard, too hot.
That's hilarious. I was out with Tony recently, and I told him how you were coming on the show, and he goes, and I didn't even know you guys knew each other, but he was like, ask him about being in a gorilla suit. I was like, all right, we'll see.
Well, tell him I said hi, man. We haven't seen each other since then, I think,
Are you you're in LA, right?
Yeah.
We got to plan a coffee or something and get you and Tony back together.
Yeah, that'd be great.
He's awesome. And finally, last thing I promise, I got to ask about America's Next Muppet.
Yeah.
Because this was a pilot you shot. Was this like a scripted thing, or were you guys actually looking for a new Muppeteer through like a competition? I'm not familiar with this.
This was a thing back when the Muppets were still at Henson.
Oh, okay.
I think they were still there. Maybe I'm confused. Maybe it was either they were still at Henson. You know what? I can't remember whenever America's Next Muppet was, but it was a fun idea. It just didn't work for me because the Muppets were judging puppeteers with puppets.
Oh,
right.
Oh, interesting.
So for me, it kind of I directed the thing, and I tried to make it work, but ultimately for me, it didn't work. But what was fun about it, and I think there's maybe a way to find a new competition like this somehow. Well, the fun part is that we found puppeteers who wanted to audition and wanted to, be a part of this competition thing, this reality competition. And then we had Bruce Lanoil, Leslie, and one other person. And we had them pretend that they were new. People didn't know who they were, right? And so I had them creating conflicts and weird situations in the green rooms and where people would hang out before. And so we had little backstories going on that fed the drama of it, But it was basically about people auditioning to become the next Muppet, America's Next Muppet, with their character. And even we had a few guest auditioners. David Arquette and Paul Rubens auditioned as a team.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Trying to think who else.
Can this be seen, or is this was a pilot that was shot and sits on a shelf?
I think it sits on a shelf somewhere. I don't have it either.
Oh, man.
But the winner was Grant Pachoco. Do you know who Grant Pachoco is?
I don't.
Grant Pachoco is a great puppeteer. He has his own podcast, but he also does Stuffed and Unstrung, the live puppeteer. Did they change the name now? What's that called?
Puppet Up?
Oh, now it's called Puppet Up. Originally it was Stuffed and Unstrung. Now it's Puppet Up. But he's part of that. He became basically a puppeteer that works with Henson a lot, and sometimes he'll come and work with us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Bill, this has been so much fun. I thank you so much for taking the time to chat. And before you go, why don't you let folks know, I know you get your own podcast with your brother, and anything else you'd like to plug?
Well, Gene and I have kind of taken a long break from it. We just did a recent one, actually, because of Muppets Haunted Mansion. We thought we would have we did it on Sunday. It was
Say it like Pepe once. Muppets Haunted Mansion.
Muppets Haunted Mansion. So we did a quick show last minute on this past Sunday. But you can go to thebarrettabrothers.com. We have our website where you can see all of our old podcasts. I think there's 48 or 50 of them or something. Great guests: Ricky Gervais, Frank Oz, Dave Gulls, All the Muppet performers. Louise Gold did one with us, was hysterical. We've had everybody, I think. Not everybody. But
Everybody wants to work with the Muppets. That's like the incredible thing is like, I'm sure somebody said no in the past, but like, it seems like if the Muppets ask you to do something, anybody will drop everything and do it. It feels like the public looking in.
Yeah, it's a special experience to come on a Muppet set, and I learned that from everybody else who experienced it with Jim, and so one of my kind of goals, however I can help make that happen, is to make sure that always continues, and that it feels great when you step onto a set. There's nothing like it. People come to visit and they're just like, wow, that's really fun. You guys are having fun, Yeah.
I stepped onto set when I snuck onto stage 16 at Warner Brothers when they were shooting what was the 2011 movie called? Was it just called The Muppets, I think.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I snuck onto stage and there was Steve doing Kermit and there were a bunch of rats around. And and they had recreated the Muppet Show set, kind of.
Yeah.
And I was just like walking by, I was just like, this is surreal. And then I walked by a cabinet with some of the puppets just hanging there. And I was like, this is nuts. Like, it was mind-blowing stuff to me.
Yeah.
But it was really kind of like interesting just to see the performers between takes. And they're just like, yeah, like this is work. This is our job.
Oh, yeah.
And they've had these puppets on their arms for hundreds, if not thousands of hours. And, it was just really interesting to walk onto a Muppet set.
Yeah. And like you said,
you got a weird job, Bill. It's awesome.
Trust me, I know. But like you said, I can't think of many celebrities, at least, that have not wanted to do it. If they're asked, they try and find a way to make it happen. So that's really nice to know that people are excited to always come and work with the Muppets. But my favorite is when the families come and visit and they get to watch this stuff because it's so weird. It's so unique.
Well, one of the things, sorry, I keep rambling here, but one of the things that I find so cool and unique when families and kids do show up is like, I love how even Jim Henson, he would go on talk shows with Kermit on his arm, talking to Kermit. Like, it was never hidden from kids. And the thing that's amazing is that like kids don't care and Kermit is real. And so I don't know. I always
adults,
find that really interesting.
Adults and kids, they could care less about us, and that's the whole fun part of it, is that once those Muppets are there, they don't want to know we're there. They could care less, and they just focus on them. And it's really it's just really special to be a part of something like that. I'm very lucky, very fortunate.
Awesome. Well, Bill, I will let you go at this point. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Jeff. And now go find out where you're from.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
I hope you all enjoyed today's conversation. Thank you once again to Bill Barretta for taking the time to chat with me. On the last couple of episodes, we talked about a WandaVision spin-off in the works featuring Agatha Harkness, live entertainment returning to Walt Disney World, and more Disney news. Plus, don't miss out on our episode featuring the ultimate Halloween theme park Orlando attractions marathon. On the next coming episodes, more Disney news, followed by the final installment of Primetime at the Parks. The easiest way to make sure you don't miss any of the magic is by subscribing to Disney Coast to Coast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Wherever you search, don't forget, it's Disney with a Z, Coast to Coast. You can find any links and info mentioned in this episode, along with ways to connect with today's guest by checking out the show notes link in this episode's description. This episode has been executive produced by Robert Scontrino. Gain rewards like Robert by visiting patreon.com/Disney with a Z, CTC. And don't forget to leave a voicemail at 818-860-2569 to share your thoughts on today's conversation and the chance to be heard on a future episode. You can find that number in this episode's description, along with a link for some free gifts from me to you. Other than that, folks, have a magical day and a happy Halloween. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. This podcast is part of the Podcast Network. Learn more about this show, plus find more quality and entertaining podcasts at thepodcastnetwork.com. That's DEPodcastnetwork.com.